Number 5, I have x1, y1, I have x2, y2, I have the slope is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So y sub 2 is 9, minus from the formula y sub 1 is 4, divided by x sub 2 is just x, minus from the formula x sub 1 is 1. So I'm going to get 5 over x minus 1. But now the slope is undefined. The only way we have a slope that is undefined is if we divide some number by 0. And it doesn't matter what this number is, because no matter what this number is, when I divide by 0, it's undefined. So this doesn't matter. All that matters is this. So I have x minus 1 equals 0, add 1 to both sides, I get x equals 1. Okay, number 6, I've got x1, y1, I have x2, y2. I have the slope is equal to the change in y, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1, over the change in x, which is x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So I'm going to have y sub 2, which is just y, minus y sub 1, which is 3, divided by x sub 2, which is negative 2, minus from the formula, and then x sub 1 is negative 6. So I'm getting y minus 3 divided by negative 2 minus negative 6. When I subtract a negative, I really add, so I get 4. And what does it have to equal? It has to equal negative 3/4. Now I can cross multiply. I'm going to get 4 times the quantity y minus 3 equals 4 times negative 3. But look, I can go ahead and divide both of these by 4. That simplifies to a positive 1, so I have 1 times y minus 3. That simplifies to a positive 1, so that's going to just be negative 3. Now I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I get y equals 0. Oh, does not help when the little thing is in the way, does it? Okay, and then we are going to add one problem to the back. So let me scroll in a little bit. Okay, and you take a minute to copy that. Put the video on pause to do so. Okay, so then I have x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. I have my slope, which is going to be the change in y over the change in x, which is y sub 2 divided by y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. My y sub 2 is just y, minus, from the formula, y sub 1 is negative 1 and 1/8. Negative 1 and 1/8. And then I have x sub 2 minus x sub 1, so I'm going to have 3 and 3/4. Minus from the formula, and x sub 1 is 5/3. I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. I'm going to have y minus negative 1 and 1/8. That's going to be really plus. And what else I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and convert this into a mixed improper fraction from a mixed number to improper. So I'm going to have 8 times 1 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So I'm going to have y plus 9/8 is equal to, alright, over here I'm going to simplify this. Of course, if you're using the calculators in the classroom, that's pretty easy. But I'm going to have 4 times 3 is 12, 13, 14, 15. This is going to be 15 over 4 minus 5/3. Then I need to have a common denominator. My common denominator is going to be 12. So I'm going to turn that into a 12 by multiplying by 3. What I do the denominator, I do the numerator. So that's going to give me 45 over 12 minus, to turn this into 12, I multiply by 4. I multiply this by 4. So I'm going to have negative 5 times 4. That's going to be my negative 20 over 12. So I'm going to end up with 45 minus 20, which is 25 over 12. So this is 25 over 12. And then now I set this equal to the slope. I like to have my negative signs in the numerator, so I'm going to say negative 3/10. Then I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So I'm going to get 10 times the quantity y plus 9/8 equals, and over here I multiply this, I'm going to have negative 3 times 25/12. When I distribute the 10, now see, I don't want to divide both sides by something, because if I divide both sides by something, I'm going to get another fraction over here, or a decimal, one or the other. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Why not? I'm going to go ahead and divide this by 10. Nah, I think that'll confuse you guys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So I'm going to have 10y plus 10 times 9/8 is going to be 90 over 8. Over here, I can do some simplify before I multiply. Negative 3 goes into negative 3 one time. Negative 3 goes into 12 negative 4 times. So I'm going to have 1 times 25 over negative 4. Then I need to go ahead and subtract this from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 98 from both sides. That's going to give me 10y equals, well, crud. I can't do this quite yet, can I? Because this has got to be a denominator of 8. I'm going to take that negative sign, I'm going to put it in the numerator. And then to turn this into an 8, I need to multiply by 2. And what I do the denominator, I do the numerator, so I'm going to have negative 50 over 8. And I am going to be subtracting negative 90 over 8. When the denominators are the same, you keep them the same. And I combine the numerators. I've got negative 50 and I have negative 90. Altogether, that's a negative 140. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 10. So over here I'm going to get y equals, over here I'm going to have a negative 140 divided by 8 times the reciprocal of 10, which is going to be 10 over 1. The reciprocal of that is 1/10. Okay, I can divide this by 10, so 10 into 10 once. 10 into a negative 140 is negative 14. I get y equals negative 14 over 8. I can divide both of those by 2. Y equals negative 7/4. A lot of this I did by hand just to show you how to do it by hand, but you could just as easily use the calculators.